Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the CMA. And as Andrew said, our focus today is on the CMA's consumer protection powers. There are some pretty big changes coming up with the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act. And I hope you'll find this morning really helpful to set the scene for that. We'll try and walk you through the draft rules and guidance currently out for consultation. I wanted to start by expressing my very sincere gratitude to CMA colleagues and also colleagues at the Department for Business and Trade for the work that has been done to progress these, and also to all of you for being here, because we very much want to get your views on whether the rules and guidance are clear to understand and strike the right approach. And we promise that we will reflect very carefully on what you tell us. And today is hopefully a really good opportunity for you to ask questions. In the first part of today's session, you'll be hearing from me and also from Hayley Fletcher. Hayley took over from me as Senior Director for Consumer Protection in the spring and is now leading the team's preparations to ensure we're operationally ready, but also importantly overseeing our current portfolio of cases. And as you'll have seen from last week's announcement about Ticketmaster and the Oasis tour, we continue to progress cases under the current powers, and where appropriate, we'll continue to launch new ones ahead of the DMCC Act powers coming into effect. So Hayley and I will try and cover some of the main questions we've been asked recently about the new consumer powers, and then after that, Andrew will give you a more detailed sort of line-by-line tour of the new provisions. Then through both of those, it's a really good opportunity to get stuck in with the questions that you have. But I'd just like to set the scene by making sort of three key points about the new enforcement powers. I wanted to talk first about our general approach to using those new powers. Secondly, about how we see consumer protection as part of the CMA's overall portfolio of work. And then lastly, to cover what we want business to do between now and the go live of the MCC to prepare. So first, our general approach. We're going to be talking in more detail today about the key changes coming down the line, and they will very significantly strengthen the UK's consumer protection law enforcement regime, introducing new direct enforcement for the CMA, including the ability to impose civil fines and order redress, and also an upgrade to the court-based enforcement processes for the CMA, trading standards, and major sector regulators, allowing the same stronger sanctions to be obtained in court. We asked the government to give us these new powers to transform the impacts of our consumer enforcement work. And that focus on impact will very much underscore our overall approach. When we tackle a problem facing consumers, we want our work to have the widest possible impact. And so that means, as now, we'll be combining enforcement action with other measures. That may be consumer campaigns and advice, business guidance and compliance materials, and the use of studies and reports to shine a light on important consumer protection issues. You've seen that we've done that with our recent work to map the consumer experience in a number of sectors, so most recently on issues like renting a home or trying to improve our energy efficiency. But strong deterrent consumer protection enforcement action will lie at the heart of our work. Having asked for these new powers, we intend to use them. We'll do so responsibly and in a proportionate manner to send a clear signal that we're ready to ensure a level playing field for fair dealing businesses and to step in where consumer rights aren't respected. As now, we'll use our power to secure enhanced consumer measures to put things right and make consumers whole again, but with a critical difference that the CMA will be able to do so itself without having to go to court. So how do we see consumer protection as part of the CMA's overall portfolio of work? So firstly, consumer protection is at the heart of our mission. We've stated clearly that we want to help consumers access fair deals and great choices, to support fair dealing businesses to thrive, and to support the economy to grow productively and sustainably. And our work to enforce consumer protection law is essential to achieving those aims. We've used our powers extensively over the last 10 years of the CMA, from travel refunds to green claims, from leasehold housing to children's online games. It's the tool we reach for when we see that a deal isn't actually fair, or that people's choices have been distorted by pressure selling, misleading claims, or a lack of transparency. It sits alongside other powerful tools in the CMA's portfolio, including our competition law enforcement role and our ability to conduct market reviews, studies, and investigations. And we recently took the decision to draw our consumer protection and markets teams together into a single directorate that I now lead. And that's intended to give us even greater flexibility to look at problems at more than one angle. A good example of that is our recent work on groceries, where alongside work that our markets team conducted looking at drivers of inflation and the state of retail price competition, we did consumer work looking at pricing practices, unit pricing, accurate pricing, loyalty pricing, promotions as well. And similarly, the multiple strands of work that the CMA is engaged on in relation to housing, an absolutely critical area of core spend. The markets work on house building and our consumer work on leasehold, the private rented sector, and home energy efficiency. But despite our successes over the last decade, consumer has definitely been the core relation of the CMA for some time. And the Digital Markets Competition and Consumers Act gives us an important and welcome upgrade to the toolkit. It puts our enforcement of competition law and consumer protection law on equal footing, and rightly sends the message to businesses that they should treat them with equal importance. Which takes me on to my final topic, what businesses should be doing to prepare. The risks for businesses of failing to comply with consumer protection law are increasing very significantly. But much of the substantive law is essentially unchanged or similar to what went before, apart from a few key areas that we'll be touching on today, meaning that what was an area of non-compliance yesterday is likely still to be one once the DMCC enters into force. Haley and I will talk about this a bit more in the session that follows, but we do sincerely recognise that most businesses want to do the right thing and have to navigate multiple areas of essential compliance activity every day. Where we think there are genuine gaps in business understanding, we'll move to fill them through guidance and also by taking cases that will help to set important precedents that businesses can follow. But there are obvious things that firms could be doing right now to prepare. And the absolutely essential first step for businesses is to put themselves in the shoes of their customers and walk the end-to-end journey of dealing with your firm. From the initial information and prices you display, to securing a sale, the terms and conditions of your services and how you deal with them through your customer service and support systems. And the reality of doing that is that you'll be creating an experience that is better for the consumer and better for your reputation. Because beyond the nuts and bolts of risk and compliance, there's also a moral imperative here, as there's often a direct connection between consumer law and people's well-being. And I want to leave you with a couple of examples of just that. You may know that the CMA has been looking at contract terms for leasehold homes. Some of these double the ground rent owed every 10 years. And that means someone paying £250 a year in ground rent in 2000 would end up paying £4,000 a year in 2040. Or more worryingly, whoever lives there 100 years from now would be paying annual ground rent of over £1 million. What started as a cracking way to secure a future profit stream has left people unable to sell or remortgage their homes. And it's no exaggeration to say that by tackling those unfair contract terms, the CMA has taken away a huge source of worry and concern and been able to give those people their lives back. And the second example is one of the very first cases I worked on at the CMA, a consumer project with a gambling commission to look at online casino bonus promotions. They made a very attractive offer of giving you free money, £50 when you put in 50 of your own. But a closer look at the terms and conditions revealed that you couldn't touch that money. You couldn't get back a single penny, whether winnings or your original stake, until you'd wagered the combined pot 40 times. In other words, until you'd done £4,000 of gambling. On a narrow view, that's 50 quid and people know what they're doing when they gamble. but effectively forcing someone through terms and conditions to keep gambling again and again and again is very obviously going to cause problems for those who struggle with addictive behaviours. Both of those examples highlight why it's so important that we're given the right tools and powers to tackle consumer protection law breaches, direct powers for the CMA to fix problems and get people's money back, and to set an important body of precedent to help businesses understand how to comply with the law, and where appropriate, to be able to fine, to send a clear deterrent message across the economy that consumer protection law must be respected. Thank you very much, and I look forward to our discussion and engagement today.